Hi there, welcome. My name is Benjamin, your guy. So, we are reviewing the book Making It Big by Femi Oteodola, and this is day 2 to section 1. Section 1 is in the beginning, cutting my tooth, finding my feet, and putting my foot forward. So, we'll see from lesson 1 starting small and dreaming big. Now, the story of the billionaire is a story that is worth reading and is worth watching also. Now, the idea of this story concerning that particular lesson is that it's good to start early. So Femi Oteodola encourages you to start early. I mean, I don't know when you started your first business, but personally, I also started before I was a teenager. This guy here is an enthusiastic person. So from making little change as a small child to thinking about something. So officially, his first company was in 1994, which was the company he called Center Force. But prior before then, he named his company Femco. He was doing that business for fun and because he liked the idea of making his own money. So from then, according to him, his dad spotted that business trait, and in no time he started carrying a briefcase because he was making small change, and at the same time he was getting pocket money from his dad. So when he grew older this time around, he decided to start a proper business. But he had a situation, and in one of the lessons he highlighted here is that be strong in spite of the circumstances, more something like that, because normally he's not supposed to start the business when he started because the family had a challenge. That was when his dad was taken away as governor. When the military regime took over after the 1993 election annulment, right? So being in that fix, maybe you can imagine your dad was governor and all of a sudden all of those things happened, and but how did he start his first business? One of the things I like about Femi Oteodola is how he identifies problems as his catalyst, because major of his businesses were bettered from problems. So what was the first problem? The first problem was in the early 90s. Some companies that used to come and provide money, loans to people, because a lot of Nigerians needed money. So these companies will come, provide money with an outrageous interest rate. And he studied the business model and found out that it was Ponzi scheme, because all of a sudden the whole thing will crash. But based on desperation, they promise you 10,000. If you bring 10,000 naira and they promise you 5,000 naira interest, that's more than 50% in just few days or few weeks. MMM. So Ponzi scheme was a thing then. So he noticed that many Nigerians were falling a victim for that. So he picked interest in that and he opened his first business, which he called Center Force. And the business idea was to give loans, block money to entrepreneurs. And doing that, he actually thought it was a small thing, only for him to find out that to execute this business you actually need money, because his own money had finished. That was the first time he took a loan from a bank, and he took a loan of 30 million naira. So doing the business, Femi Oteodola he advises that you become very meticulous, especially when you want to execute a business. You need to know the nooks and crannies. You need to know at least the basics. You may not need to start perfectly, but you need to identify one or two things. So from there, he started making money. He didn't even know that business would give him so much. But when people saw that, this is a little bit sustainable, and a lot of people saw the peace that came with the business, they stuck with him. A particular guy, he highlighted one or two guys that were doing business consistently with him. They would collect 6 million and pay back in few months. I can't remember how many percent he was doing. I think 12%. He was doing 12% interest. So when you get the loan, you pay back with 12% interest, and it was a very good business. So the business kept on growing. And he did that business for 4 years. Kept on growing. But there's something else he highlighted. When people drag this book, they have not read the book, so they don't really know plenty things the guy did. So in one of those times, he started supplying cars, because majority of his customers were in the military. So he started giving them cars because they've come to trust him. One of the things you must note when you are doing financial businesses, you cannot but be trusted. you have to win people's trust. When you give people your money or people give you their money, it has to be based on trust. So because of some of those customers had trusted him, so he overheard one or two of them looking for cars. So he plugged into the business and was doing it as a side hustle, making money for himself too. So at a point, my guy became, a don and felt relaxed. Started getting a lot of money because, of course, that was the business that made him his first millionaire as an entrepreneur. Rose from 2 employees to over 30 employees in the business, and he was doing it at that time. He started going to club, having a beautiful life. And as you can think about it, when you started something that you didn't know would give you so much money, and eventually it gave you a whole lot of sweet money, so he felt a little bit comfortable. So until 3 to 4 years later, the guy was already getting used to the whole and tired of the whole financial services. So here, he was not thinking about a new stuff to do. And the human being is insatiable, right? So the more money you have, the more money you want to have. So here comes Femi thinking about the new business he wants to venture into. And that was when he came up with the idea of Xenon Petroleum. But it was not clear yet. So this is the thing I say about ideas. Ideas are endless in its nature, whereby it can just come as a job, or the more you dig into it, the more it expands. So that idea was just there. And in the book, he said his child went to school and was asked, what does his dad do for a living? And humorously or innocently, she said, sleeping. And that was what he was doing, because the child, before going to school, she would see her dad sleeping, because he's always up in the night, either at the club or doing one or two stuffs. So eventually, he started thinking about what to do. So providence played a role here. Challenge, like I told you, Femi Oteodola is an opportunist when it comes to challenges, right? So you know what it is that when you want to do something, the universe tries to help you. So that's what played out here. Providence helped him when he wanted to start this Xenon Petroleum. He didn't know how to start. He wanted to start, but there was no, major push until when he wanted to buy his own personal fuel for his family. He bought about 2,000 liters. So it was taking time. They did not deliver. They kept on postponing, pushing the whole delivery and eventually when they came one afternoon, they drove in the truck. So looking so dirty and all, this truck was dripping fuel. And he came out. He was very angry. I was like, they should take this nonsense out of here, until they eventually spread some newspaper and brought in the diesel. So when he looked at that delivery, he said to himself, I can do a better job. And that was all he needed. That was the whole push he needed to, delve into the whole petroleum market. And he started with his personal money, 15 million naira. He met his friend Tunde and they discussed, met some persons, got license, registered and started. You think it's a lot of money. Of course, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of push to start with. But at that level, there were bigger guys that were playing at a big stage. So all he could do was to become a retailer, buying from those guys. Then he would deliver the diesel by himself. So he got a truck, just a mini truck, just him and his driver. That was the way he was running the business, pushing it. But the demand was intense because there was no light. This no light matter for Nigeria, I don't take. So that was an opportunity for him. The demand of fuel from companies, from industries, from, and he also, you remember that he had made a long list of connect customers from his previous business. So he was not unknown. He didn't just jump into this host. So he had contacts. So supplying to all these people, his friends too, don't forget, he's from a rich family. So supplying to all these things showed him that there's a lot of potential in the oil and gas sector. But here comes the deal. Expansion, because when there is more demand, there has to be more supply, right? But here he doesn't have the money to get more supply. So this was when he said, don't be ashamed of asking for help. If you know a rich uncle that can help you, provided that the business is already in motion and is working, a business, how you can get the money without getting a loan from the bank that will cut off your neck. That was when he borrowed 250,000 euros from his dad with a 1% interest for 5 years. No bank would have given him that kind of loan with that limited. Short, he will not even get that kind of loan as at that time. So he got that loan from his dad and went into the business bigger. Not only that, he moved from his mansion because he had to sell his mansion or put it as a collateral from another loan he took. He went down to making sacrifices for the business so that the business can move forward. He moved to a flat with his family to Ikeja. He moved from Victoria Line to Ikeja so that he could get more money and put into the business, scaling it, pushing it, and one thing led to another. Of course, we are talking about expansion here. Now, I saw a post on Twitter. Some person were asking him, "Oga, did you write how you became the sole distributor directly getting from NNPC in the book?" I was like, read the book and find out if he did. Femi Oteodola is not the only oil and gas personnel that gets directly from NNPC, but he rose to the rank. He started from retailing, at a point, one of those days, he got a contract to supply, I think 20 trucks or so, but he didn't have the supply. He didn't have the diesel. So he called his suppliers. They could not deliver for him because of the urgency of time. And that was what propelled him to think in a bigger way. And his greatest burden was now, how do I get directly from LMPC? It was a whole lot of struggle for him, but he started making inquiries, asking questions until he met his friend Dapo. So Dapo said he knows one guy, the guy that does the whole process to get him from LMPC directly. Remember, his business is growing. His business was not going down. His business was growing, but it was a lot for him to get to that connect. So one day, when his wife put to bed in London, so he decided to go for his child's naming ceremony, and visited his wife and his child, his newborn baby. That's his last son, Farah. And after the naming ceremony, he was supposed to return back to Lagos the next day because man needed to be on ground for his business. His wife was not happy with that kind of decision. She just put to bed, and you are going back to Nigeria the next day. Can't you just stay a little bit? He said no, he has to go. So on leaving that London that same day, at the train station when he was getting a train to the airport, he met one of his friends and they exchanged greetings, and somebody met his friend and greeted the friend of his and went back. So his friend asked him, "Do you have a problem with this guy that just greeted us?" Because this guy, he was like, no, he doesn't know the guy. Only for him to find out that person that just greeted his friend is the same guy he has been lobbying to meet, that will give him a link to his direct NNPC plug. So, like he wrote in the book, like the Pentecostals will say, your miracle is on its way. So he ran towards the guy and flagged him down and said, "Guy, my name is this, my name is that. Please, I've been trying to reach you through my friend Dapo." And so, well, eventually they boarded the same flight, and he spoke with the guy and pitched it to him. So in this lesson, starting small and dreaming big, is a process of how he rose from just being a child that does pedicure for his dad's friends to raising money to starting his own, working for his dad, of course, starting his own business, which is called Center Force, and starting his own petroleum business, Xenom Petroleum, which he grew eventually to become a $1 billion enterprise. Along the line, he started building oil tanks. He grew from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100, from 100 to 1,000, and that's the beautiful story. In this particular lesson, you will learn how to start small. You will learn how to be curious. Femi was very, very curious and audacious. Amidst the privileges he had, he was very courageous, and that's one thing you should learn. Don't stop dreaming big, and as you start small, keep at it, and eventually you'll be at the top. See you tomorrow for day 3 as we look into the second lesson.